Hello and welcome to A Killing Couple on the Prowl. Today we're visiting Stansted, Quebec and Derby Line, Vermont to follow an unusual border that separates and joins two communities. Citizens can wave across the street or meet up in a library with a border through the stacks.
We're here at the beginning of Canusa Street, which is right behind us. This is a unique street that has Canada on the left side of the street and Vermont is on the right side of the street.
Depending on which way you're facing.
If you right behind us, you can see behind Jamie's shoulder is the U.S. border guards, and right across the street is the Canadian. And this is a very unique place.
Let's take a stroll.
If you cross that yellow line, you'll be in trouble. The word is that before 9/11, neighbors used to cross the street, used to share recipes, chat.
Well, I'm starting to spot some Americana. Canusa plays a role in Esley's novel, Nerve Attack.
I'm here at this is the beginning of the bike trail in Stansted, and this is the map goes down along Canusa. And in my novel, Nerve Attack, I have my smuggler parks along Canusa and then walks along bike trail and then crosses into the woods to get to the USA in the middle of a storm, so that of course the technology doesn't work as well.
I wonder if he's sorry he did that. I guess you'll have to read the book to find out.
Yeah, you would have to read the book to know.
The road leads to a library where the border runs right through the building. And we were lucky enough to get a guided tour from Kathy Converse, a very generous and knowledgeable library volunteer. The library and opera house were completed in 1904. Canadians can enter through the U.S. side but must return to Canada upon exiting.
So hi, we're in front of the Haskell Free Library, which is featured somewhat in my book, Nerve Attack.
Leslie, what are you doing here?
I am straddling the line between two countries.
A closed border.
A closed border. And,
Do you need a passport?
I have my passports in my purse.
You
if I
don't
them.
need them here, but if you tried to go into one country or another, you would need your documentation.
So on my left is Canada, on my right is the U.S.
North and south.
This is Martha.
This is Martha Stewart Haskell. Martha was 70 years old when she started this project. She had money, and she always had she had this grand house. So she would have musicales in her home, and she would have people come in and use her library. So she had this built to do those things for the two communities. And at that time, there were no restrictions. You could just go, this was family, both sides. Mm-hmm. You could go either way. You know, it was a very different world. This is what was the men's reading room. Okay. And it was there weren't books in here. Magazines, maybe newspapers. The men were smoking their pipes and their cigars. They had one of the three fireplaces, and every room down here is a different kind of wood. So this is yellow birch, the second of the three fireplaces. Now this is all cherry wood. This room is all cherry. You have cherry on one side, and this room is all the walnut. So you have walnut on this side.
Yeah. Some carpentry.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Haskell Stewart symbol in the center. Mm-hmm. And it's part of its cover, and that's because the desk did not used to be there. The desk was over here, and you could not go get your book yourself. Out here, you would find something like this, a wooden block with the book title and author on it.
Oh.
And you would bring this to the front, to the desk here, and only the librarian was in the stacks.
Huh.
So you would bring your book, and if the librarian thought it was appropriate for you, that you were mature enough, then the first one was a he, Martha's nephew, or she, later librarians, would get the book for you and put the block into this place where the book was.
Well, I've never heard of that system.
How interesting.
Martha's had planned on her son running the library, but he didn't want to. So it was her nephew, who lived right next door, family lived here, who was the first librarian.
Are the books on the Canadian side French and English?
Originally, everything was English because this was just an English area. After the American Revolution, the pro-Brits moved north of the border. So this was an all English-speaking area. Later on, as the French population migrated south, we had a demand for French books. So our librarian started ordering some French books to meet that demand. And now we're part of a system, the Réseau, which circulates French books around to small libraries. So some of the French books, which are all down here, are ours, and others are part of a rotating system. These ceilings, each one is individual pattern. Every ceiling in here. And this is called pressed steel. One of the things that we do have documentation for, you'll see all of those items. Those are Martha's, and they were probably gifts from her friends. And you can see they're dated.
Oh.
There's little notes on them.
Oh, wow.
So that's sort of the, that was the beautiful china of the time. And of course nowadays, most young people don't want anything of that sort.
Probably has
they want
lead in
stuff.
it.
Yeah, probably is lead.
So Martha, when she had this built, she insisted that it have electricity and electric light.
Wow.
So it was state of the art, and that was probably her greatest expense in here.
Are those the original
Those
fixture?
are the original.
Isn't that beautiful?
And you'll see those throughout.
So are there performances in
There
this?
are. We have a local theater group, and then we have some performances occasionally, like groups, like musical groups or something that might come through out of Montreal or something. We used to have a lot of Derby line, Newport, used to be on the rail line between Boston and Montreal.
Okay.
So all of the major musicians, this is historically, the musical acts and stuff would be stopping in the Newport area, and some of them were here. So this was a much more vibrant area than it is now. I'm going to take you down here. Watch your head, just because this is one of my favorite places.
Oh, looks like we're going backstage.
We are. But these walls have been signed, autographed by performers over the years.
Oh.
Now, one of the oldest that I have found was 1920. And that's there. And then this wall was pristine up until 2023. And then these young people who were doing theater groups started on this wall, which is wonderful. So this will eventually be full. But this keeps on going.
Okay.
With the signatures on the wall. And keeps on going. And the signatures up and down.
Wow.
Lovely. Look, dressing mirror.
Oh yeah. Well, it's still an active theater. So now we also have movies that we can do.
So am I right? I had read somewhere that the seats are in one country and the stages in the
Well,
other.
part and part. These seats are in the U.S. So you can sit with your feet in one country and your butt in another. And these seats are in Canada.
Wow.
These were the cheap seats. They had no armrests. These were your pricier seats. They had armrests. Well, you could call it padded, but leather-covered seats. And then there's a frame underneath these seats. If you can see that frame, the men would be able to slide their top hat or their derbies in there and then close the seat. So these are all mahogany.
Ah.
The downstairs, this part seats about 400 and about 100 upstairs. We have, this is the major curtain.
Oh, it's gorgeous. This place is.
And I'll tell you more about that one after. So this proscenium arch is plaster. The cherubs, that railing, that's all plaster in that area. Now, to my knowledge, there were no artisans of that type in Vermont, southern Quebec. So chances are those were Boston artisans. If you look at that lamp, you really see Martha's colors. The whole room are those colors, but you really don't notice it as much. But you can see it in the lamp. That is original because we were electrified. And if a bulb goes out, someone will climb into the attic, lower that on a winch, and a bulb will be changed.
I was going to say, how do you change that?
Yes, that's how. It's on a winch. There was a man from southern Vermont who was an artist, and Colonel Haskell asked him to do the curtains. And Haskell wanted to negotiate. And the guy said, no, this is my price. So the compromise, see the steamboat in the Bay of Venice. Colonel Haskell loved steamboats. So that was the compromise. So there was a steamboat like that would not fit in the Bay of Venice, or would not be able to do that. So that was the compromise. The artist said, I really don't care. If you want that, you get that. Here's my price, kind of thing. So that is what makes that sort of unique, and people don't notice it unless their attention is brought to it. So that man did 4 other pieces for us. And they are here. Earl Lamas did this one, which is the one you see. Then he did 4 backdrops. And they are rolled up in the ceiling of the stage in flat black painted tubes. So this is the one that's down, and this is the most famous one, obviously. But, and this gives you a little history of Lamas. He was from southern Vermont, working out of Boston. We had no winter performances here up in the theater because it was too cold. Over just after COVID, we had insulated windows installed. And then the ladies the board put in insulated drapes. So now we can have winter performances. But that's coming gradually. And this gives you a good view of Martha's house. Well, it's a wonderful place, guys.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Thank you
so much.
You're welcome.
Guys.